YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back recapping NFL Week 8 like we do every single week. We also have plenty more content predicting upcoming weeks. So hopefully you can join us for all that. Hopefully you can subscribe. We do have extra content available on our Patreon. You get my score predictions on YouTube. You can get juniors on the Patreon if you sign up for that tier. You also get updated playoff predictions every single week and updated NFL mock drafts every single week with the updated order. Patreon.com/GoatHouse for more info. And 40K, that's our subscriber goal. Please help us get there. We're trying to reach that by 2020, so please help us out. Full NFL content all year long. Quickly, I'll talk about the Thursday night game. Everyone's brought that to my attention, last week that I should start talking about the Thursday night game. So quickly to break this down, when I woke up on Friday morning, I seen the headline on ESPN that said the Vikings' stellar defensive performance, whatever it was. I don't know how it was worded exactly, which I thought that, that made me laugh a little bit. It just felt like they didn't watch the game. Even though the Redskins only scored 9 points, the Vikings defense didn't look that great there. They were giving up some yards, kind of like they did against the Lions, except the Lions were getting points. So the Vikings defense is not really playing that great, while the offense is playing pretty darn good. I got to give credit to the Redskins D line though. That was the reason the Vikings only scored 19, but really it was the Dalvin Cook show, and he was dominant and showing why him and McCaffrey are the top backs and up for the MVP award there. Very impressive. So as I quickly break down that game, the Vikings do get Holton Hill back for cornerback, so that's big time for them. So we'll see what they decide to do there. Their cornerback play has not been good, but they're on a winning streak. Offense looking pretty solid. But to recap Sunday, it's mainly what we're here for. Seahawks and Falcons, 27-20. The score shows it somewhat close. It really wasn't that close. Seahawks had control most of the game. Really wasn't scared for them at all. Justin Britt goes down. That's unfortunate that he might be out for the season. Most likely is. So that is unfortunate. They lost Will Dissly too, recently. So, yeah, again, very, very unfortunate. It's just down the stretch, the healthier teams are the ones that continue to play and continue to win. So hopefully the Seahawks can, continue to figure it out there. But very good team. If you look at the stats, Russell Wilson didn't do a whole bunch, but didn't really need to. Had his moments that were great. Still in that MVP discussion. Chris Carson really picked it up. We talked about early in the year. He wasn't looking too good, but I was kind of predicting him to step up, as was most people. And he's really stepping it up. So he had a good game. They got Rashad Penny going, which you love to see. Not as many carries as Carson, obviously, but he really got going. And you kind of see, first I'll talk about, the Falcons insisted on kicking field goals early when Matt Bryan, consistently is missing them, extra points and field goals, in the past few weeks, and then missed a few in this game. They continue to kick it. And obviously the fourth down situations were probably tough to get, but it's not a game you're going to win unless you go for them, So I would have went for them, some of those if I were them, questionable to just really no point. Just felt like no point to kicking some of those field goals. But with the Matt Schaub stat line, we kind of see where Matt Ryan gets his stat line from, and everyone's saying system quarterback, that's a bunch of BS, but it's kind of what I've been saying. I've been saying all year, Matt Ryan's hasn't been playing good. Beginning of games, crucial moments, big play moments, hasn't been executing. A lot goes to the play calling and the offensive line, but still at the bottom line is he hasn't been executing. And I got people telling me, look at his stats. What are you talking about? Stats don't really matter. It's a lot of coming from behind, a lot of throwing the ball, and the same thing happened here in Matt Schaub, even, racked up some points. It's a lot of, again, coming from behind. You have no choice but to throw and some garbage time in there. So the Falcons got a lot of rebuilding to do, in my opinion. I made a video on what moves they should made that was recently, so go check that out. I think they should actually trade Matt Ryan. I don't think they will, and I don't think they need to do it now. I think they need to do it in the offseason, but I talked about that in the video. But kind of something that I'll come back to throughout this video probably is the stats. People overreact from the stats, and I've been, I'm not anti-stats. To me, stats are there to kind of, proves things that you see on the field. You see something in the field and you go check the stats, and it kind of proves your point there. It just makes you feel a little more comfortable what you see on the field. So that's really what they're there for. People overreact from the stats all the time. It's a good win for the Seahawks. So we'll see what they do with the backup center in. We'll see if they make any moves. They're always open to making moves. Especially the trade deadline coming up here. We'll have the trade deadline covered. Trade deadline ends tomorrow, which is Tuesday in the afternoon. Next game, the Eagles and the Bills. Predicted this one pretty well. I didn't think the Eagles would win by this much. I actually only got one game wrong so far this week. I took a lot of smack for picking the Eagles in this one, and kind of goes back to the stat thing. I wasn't trusting the Bills' run, the run game on the offensive side. I said it's not the best run offense, and people, immediately went and looked up the stats and said that they're in, the top half in the rushing game, and I don't care about the stats. I really don't care about the stats, and it kind of proved in this game. Josh Allen leading the team in rushing yards with 45, and I also talked about the matchup. You looked at the Eagles, who they struggled against. They struggled against the Vikings and the Cowboys, two teams that are a lot better than the Bills on offense, one, and two teams that are unpredictable because you don't know if they're going to throw on you or they're going to run on you because they can do both at a very high level. The Bills, they're not really threatening anybody with their offense, and that is why the Eagles won this matchup before the game started, to me, and why I picked them, and why they actually won the game, because you beat the Eagles by consistently getting yards and points on them, mainly through the air. If you have a running game to scare them, that can open things up through the air. The Bills just could not do it. They started off pretty well. Josh Allen's fumble was pretty crucial, but the Eagles dominated most of this game. The running back duo they were excellent. Jordan, I know Miles Sanders went down, but Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders were excellent in this game. Miles Sanders looks very, very good catching the ball out of the backfield. So that was the main thing. Wentz didn't have to do a whole bunch. It's kind of like he had to do a whole lot just to lose the game in the past few games. Even though he hasn't been playing that well, in my opinion, he's kind of had to do so much and try to do so much. This game, pretty simple. He just kind of be a game manager here. That's basically what it was, and that was the key to win. And the reason that is because the matchup definitely favored them. The Bills, I just worry about their offense. There's just not enough offense for them. The defense, I like the defense, but they finally played, besides the Patriots, a pretty good offense, and they really struggled. They struggled covering the running backs. It seems like that's how the good defense is, like the really good defense in the NFL. It just seems like they're all of the same. They all have the same weakness. It's just kind of the running back slipping out, maybe a tight end. It's a little weird play actions, how you beat them. So good job game planning. Eagles dominated this game. The Bills got, they got an easier schedule, so that's good. I still think they probably make the playoffs, actually, just looking at their schedule, but, they got to get some more offense going in this game. Next game, the Chargers and the Bears. I was the only one to pick the Chargers this week, and I just squeaked by in this one. Strange game because it was kind of back and forth. I feel like there was a lot of different outcomes that could happen. You can say that about almost any game, but this game, mainly, especially here, we'll start in the beginning. Looking at the beginning of the game, the Bears could have put this game away early and really, beat up the Chargers. They were getting in the red zone super easy, and I didn't like how they executed down there, the play calling, and I was kind of a worry of mine that they would kind of insist on the run, that Nagy would go from one extreme to another, and even though Montgomery ran pretty darn well, he did kind of insist on the run too much. He went, got criticized for not running basically at all, to running too much because they had third down and they were kind of third and in goal, and a run play wasn't going to get them in the end zone. Yeah, they may have gotten some good yards, but there was no way they were getting in the end zone, and that's what they had to do, and they would just run the ball. And I can't tell it's because he wanted to run the ball a lot more because he's been getting criticized and he knows they have to run the ball more, or it's because he didn't trust his quarterback. And at that point, very early in the game, it just felt like he wasn't trusting Trubisky at all. And they have a few more trips in the red zone. And the Chargers are getting pass interference calls. It's kind of helping the Bears out a little bit. And there's just more, just bad play calling. There was one, it was right before the end of the half. They had a third down, and the play, they had only Allen Robinson as a receiver, and Trubisky rolled out on his side and stared him down the entire time and threw it. And there was a PI in the play. But they kind of got bailed out on which was just a terrible play design. Trubisky had no choice but to stare him down. He had no choice, to roll out, stare him down, and throw that ball pretty much, or they just weren't going to get a score, and it resulted in a PI. But that design play was just terrible, in my opinion. One receiver, it makes it harder for the quarterback. In a way, it's easier. You only have to worry about one receiver, and you only have to throw to one guy, so it's simpler, I should say. But in a way, it's harder because the defense sees you staring at one guy. Everyone knows where you're throwing it. They were fortunate the Chargers, had a PI on that play. So that play stands out to me. Most people aren't talking about that one. They're kind of talking about the ones that, that they got stopped on, because technically they didn't get stopped on that on that one because it was a PI. But that plays like that just confuse me. One receiver and you're forcing your QB to roll out, stare at that guy. Trubisky, he played a bad game. He definitely played a pretty darn bad game. But Nagy was definitely the guy to blame. He made it harder on his quarterback in some insanely, dumb decisions in this game. And the play, a couple plays after that, before the half, they actually had to kick a field goal, even though at the 1 yard line. And they still had a timeout to burn, and they were just letting the clock roll. And they just did not have a play to run. And there's blame to put on Nagy and the quarterback Trubisky at the same time. There's blame to go on both sides for that, because, Nagy has to have his quarterback prepared in that situation. Nagy has to know what to do. Are you calling the timeout? You letting it run down? He decided to let it run down, then call a timeout. But at the same, I guess it goes into how many times do you prepare for that situation? You should prepare. I'm imagining that they prepare for that situation, just maybe not enough. But then even if there's nothing going on, Trubisky should, he shouldn't have to look to the sideline and wait for something. He should be able to come up with, most quarterbacks should be able to come up with something and run and do the right thing there. So it's kind of back and forth, but I put most of the blame on Nagy. Just too many trips to the red zone that resulted in a field goal, and that was the difference in this game. But like I said, it could have went back and forth. Down the stretch, the Chargers offense starting to pick it up. They got an interception on Trubisky, and then they ended up, Keenan Allen had a dropped touchdown, which is very rare, and then they missed a chip shot field goal. So at that point, if Keenan Allen would have caught the ball, or if they would hit that field goal, I think the game would have been pretty much over at that point. The Bears did get the ball back, would have had to gone for the end zone, but I felt like the Chargers would have won the game on, if they would have just executed that. They gave the ball back, and the Bears pushed down the field, and they're just settling for a field goal. They're settling for a field goal, and I understand not throwing the ball, but actually at one point they decided to throw the ball, and Trubisky almost got sacked, so that was almost bad, and I would have blamed Nagy for that one. And then they just decide to take a knee instead of running the ball and kick a 41-yarder. And, right away, everybody knows. You can definitely get closer. A 41-yarder is not guaranteed, and it's at the end of the game in a clutch, situation. A lot of nerves, a lot of, it's got to be tough for a kicker in that situation. And the Bears have experience with that. And just to settle for a 41-yarder, and if you watch the press conference, he was confident in the field goal. He said he didn't want to run the ball again to risk a fumble, to risk losing yards. It just sounds like he doesn't have confidence in his offense. And for him saying there's a chance that they can fumble, to me, it just makes it worse, because how does he not know there's a chance he can miss a 41-yard field goal? That's not a close field goal. And like I said, the situation, the circumstances makes it tougher. So I just really question that, and what he said kind of made it worse for me. They definitely should have ran the ball again. I think the guy knows he can't fumble in that situation, whether it's Montgomery or whoever it is. So I don't think he fumbles, but yeah, you lose yards on the knee too. So I didn't like that. So the Chargers come away with the win. Like I said, early in the game, the Bears could have put the game away and won the game. So you look at it in that way, the Bears should have won the game. They outplayed them in yards. But you look at it towards the end, the Chargers had their chances at, after Trubisky was throwing a pick and fumbling. Joey Bosa started off a little slow, but really turned it around later in this game. And I'm just still surprised that Keenan Allen dropped the ball. I've seen a couple drops from Mike Williams. So, both these teams just really don't look right. The Chargers lost some games like this in this fashion. Now they win one against the Bears. So it's a tough season for the Bears. A lot of fans are upset. They had their hopes up after last season. But another one of those strange games. The Giants and the Lions next game, kind of similar to what I predicted here. Kind of a high-scoring game. Lions did a good job keeping drives alive. Early Stafford had a bad interception, so that had me worried a little bit, because, like I said, the Giants would play the pass mainly because the Lions have no run game, but I still thought the Lions would be able to pass well, which they did, but I thought maybe the Giants had a really good game plan at that point to throw Stafford off, but they really got going. Kenny Golladay had a monster game there. Besides the fumble, but he had a really good game, obviously. That touchdown grab was great. But no running game's tough, and we see Kenyon Drake get traded to the Cardinals. I'm wondering if the Lions were involved in that, because Kerryon Johnson on the IR, so we'll see what they'll do. It makes them kind of one-dimensional, and when they play good teams, they may figure out how to stop that, but they can throw. They got some weapons. Stafford has a lot of time this year compared to last year, and he's throwing the ball pretty well, minus that interception. Giants Saquon Barkley was dominant in this game. Both running the ball, catching the ball. Daniel Jones played a pretty good game throwing the ball. It's just the fumbling situation, throwing that ball backwards. He actually had another fumble that he did not lose. That's the only thing I worry when he's really, under pressure and about to get hit. He's just really not sure what to do, and he can't really hang on to the ball. But other than that, throwing the ball pretty well. And the Giants went ahead and traded for Leonard Williams. We'll break that down in a different video. But yeah, I mean, the Lions controlled most of this game. That was basically it there. I see Amendola starting to pick it up since last week. He really got going again this week. Just need a running game. They definitely need a running game. And we see they traded Diggs, and Tavon Wilson looks like the guy that's stepping up. Will Harris getting some reps to it. Wilson actually played a pretty solid game there for the Lions. But another tough loss for the Giants, but you can see they can stick around with teams like this, so that can turn into some wins, and they believe they can win right now. They trade for a guy that is an expiring contract, so they definitely think they can continue to battle and win games. So we'll see. The next game, the Buccaneers and the Titans, my only loss this week. I picked the Buccaneers, and you could say I was pretty darn close, or could have, or should have maybe got this one right, talking about that bad call by the ref on the fake field goal. We'll get to that. We'll start in the beginning of the game. Well, we'll start with, why I picked the Bucs. I think in terms of the matchup, either they match up pretty well. They bring the pressure. The Titans don't really, have the best offensive line so far this year. They'll allow some pressure on the quarterback. They're not gonna, they're not gonna go outscore a team that can score. And I still, even though the Titans won this game, I still think the Bucs win the matchup battle. But there was one thing that I had in the back of my mind, that I knew that can trump the matchup, and that's exactly what happened. Turnovers by Jameis Winston, and that's what happened. Dropping a snap on a fumble sets the Titans up for a touchdown. A couple interceptions, an interception to end the game actually, too. So that was the difference. They had so many chances, and he had so many turnovers, and they had that 4th and 1 that we'll talk about in a little bit that I don't really agree with, but. And, the Arians puts the blame on the receivers at the end, and the blame definitely needs to go to the receivers for running the wrong routes or whatever, but, I never agreed with that. I never agree with it's not the quarterback's fault. He threw it right to the other team, because the receiver ran the wrong route. I know quarterbacks anticipate receivers on being there, but you can't anticipate it and throw it that early. If the guy's not there, it doesn't look like he's going to be there, you can't throw it no matter what. That's the difference between teams that don't turn over the ball and win games and teams that do. You got to be a little smarter. So I definitely put most of the blame on Jameis Winston still. On those interceptions, he just didn't look right. The last one, I'd say the mechanics and everything looked right. But the other ones, he just looks like he's a little worried about the pressure, even though sometimes it wasn't there. Throwing a little awkwardly off, the back foot, or, moving forward a little too much. The last one looked good. He just really expected the receiver to be there. But just turnovers cost them, and they were still in the game, and they still had so many chances. So I do put blame there. And they had the 4th and 1, and I didn't like that call from Arians. The Titans are absolutely stacked up the middle, and they go out of the shotgun on top of it, run the ball up the middle. Mike Evans has been dominant one-on-one during this game. I think he could have ran Winston even on a designed QB run somewhere. But would not have done that. The Titans are dominant up the middle. You look at their D-line to get Jeffrey Simmons back. You have Jarrell Casey, who's been one of the best in football. And they may have the best middle linebacker duo in football. Jayon Brown is absolutely insane. And they have Rashaan Evans. And, you have Kevin Byard at safety too, but that really doesn't affect the decision to run. So I just don't like that call. They had their chances. They even had another chance, and you throw a pick. But, yeah, kind of to that, crucial decision to fake a field goal from the Titans and let the punter keep it. I just don't get that call. It seems like Vrabel makes a stupid decision every week that should cost them, but they get away with it. Last week, not challenging the Tannehill sneak. He had decisions to go for on 4th early in the year or kick a field goal in a spot where he shouldn't kick it. It's kind of like he's on, he's backwards in some of these decisions. And for the most part, he's been getting away with it. This one, he really gets away with it because it was a decision that, if you don't trust your kicker, number one, if you don't trust your kicker, that kicker shouldn't be on the team, which Cody Parkey's been fine besides one doinked extra point last week. Number two, if you don't trust your kicker, you punt the ball or you go for it with your offense, in my opinion. In that situation, you're better off going with it with your offense or punting the ball, and it's just, the last thing, it was a terrible decision to fake it. They have maybe the best punter in football, and you're trying to get the punter killed. He fumbled it. And the whistle should not have been blown. Live, I thought he was definitely down, but when you see the replay, he was clearly not down. And you may say, yeah, everybody thought maybe he was down live, so you can't blame the refs too much because it happened so fast. True, but really it's not true, because anything that's even somewhat close in a fumble, you let go because you always can reverse it. That was a touchdown and probably a win of the game if they let him return that. So really, I could have been 100% on the week if that happened. But I keep going back to it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a million chances. They did not execute most of the time because of turnovers. The 4th and 1 I put on Arians, but it's really the only time I put it on Arians. I don't like the blame all going to the receivers. Mike Evans had a big game. Credit the Titans slowing down and throwing the other guys off. But Bucs had a chance to win this game. I mean, you can't turn the ball over, that much to expect to win. They let me down. I picked them this week. They really let me down. So unfortunate. Titans 2-0 at Tannehill. They have looking pretty good. I know they were set up in pretty good field position when they had their success in offense. I don't really agree with their play calling a lot of the time. So we'll see if I can continue this streak alive. The Broncos and the Colts. I picked the Colts, but I also said in multiple videos that this would be a game that I can see the Colts losing. It would be a Colts move to lose this game, and it kind of felt like that during this whole game. The Broncos controlled most of this game. The Colts just could not get anything going on offense. Credit to the Broncos defense. Defensive line looked good, especially going against that Colts offensive line. It looked pretty good. Derek Wolfe looked like his old self. Offensively, they didn't get too much going, but Cortland Sutton looked like a beast. The 2 running backs were doing enough. They probably could have ran the ball a little more. Maybe some more designed screens to the running backs to Phillip Lindsay. I would wish I could have saw more of that. I feel like that's like the 3rd time I'm saying this in a recap about the Broncos. But Cortland Sutton, man, the guy's special. He's on his way to being a top tier receiver. I really think so. But yeah, the Colts stick around this game. A missed extra point holds them back from tying it up. And that last drive, I mean, talk about crucial moments in every game this week. There was some we just talked about some in some of the other games, especially the last one. I think the crucial moment of the day was where the Colts are the last scoring drive where the Colts are backed up at their own end zone, and 2 defensive linemen have Brissett not only sacked but probably safetied, which would have won the game for the Broncos. He slips it and makes an absolute ridiculous throw. Brissett did not play his best game. That fumble was all on him. That was bad. But that throw was absolutely insane. That one got me excited. Not that I was rooting for a specific team here, but just seeing throws like that, plays like that gets me excited. But going back, I mean, he should be sacked. I mean, you have to make that tackle, that sack. You have to make it, and that was the game. And that's tough. That sucks if you're a Broncos fan. I mean, that close to being a dominant defensive performance, winning the game off that, getting a safety, getting the ball back. Maybe it wasn't going to be a safety. I mean, that's still huge. Still huge. Credit to Brissett on that throw, that last drive, them clutching up. Mainly the defense. You got to credit Darius Leonard. Having him back is huge. I mean, the guy's dominant. There was a call I hated earlier in the game. It was a Noah Fant offensive pass interference, and they wanted a pick play, but he kind of just turned around and waited for the ball and would just happen to be in the guy's way. I did not like that call. I thought that was actually kind of crucial at that moment too, but maybe somewhat, but I didn't like that. And for the most part, defensive game, the Colts looked a little sloppy. The good news is, offensively, good news is they still come out with a win. That's always a good thing, but it also kind of concerns you a little bit going forward. They need to stay consistent. They need to get going when they play these defensive teams. That's kind of the scare. They get away with a win though. They get out with a win. The play of the day. Maybe the play of the day was that Brissett. Slipped the pressure, slipped the sack, slipped the safety, and a beautiful, beautiful throw on the rollout and stepping up. Man, I love that throw. But yeah, that defensive game. A good game. Interesting that the Vinatieri missed extra point to tie. It could have been the most crucial play of the game, but it turned out to was super crucial, but it turned out to be just that Brissett play that I just keep mentioning because it was ridiculous. Bengals and the Rams, 24-10. I mean, the Bengals were just so sloppy in the secondary. I mean, just missed tackles, guys falling down, guys running backwards, letting receivers get extra yak when it's just unnecessary. It's just, I don't know if they want to lose. It almost looks like they want to lose, but I don't think they do. Bengals very, very well could be the worst team in football. They just don't have enough anywhere. They just don't have enough. They got a ways to go still. So we'll see if they ever put Finley in this year. I keep saying it every week. But the Rams, amount of highlights you can make on Cooper Kupp just catching the ball and getting, ridiculous yardage. It's just, and they only scored 24 points. I mean, they did enough on offense. You have the lead the whole time, so you don't really have to do more. But I felt like if Cooper Kupp wasn't there, this would have been a ball game. That's kind of what I get a feeling, And the Rams just get a gift, get in the scheduling department. Getting the Falcons last week and the Bengals this week. Right when the perfect timing too. Right when they needed it most. I want to see more from the Rams. That's a good team, obviously. NFC's really good. It's stacked. There's so many teams that can make the playoffs. And the Rams right now, I'd say it might be on the outside looking in. And they got to show me something. They got to show me more. They got to show me they can do it against, the good teams. Still worry about Goff under pressure, the offensive line. Gurley just doesn't look right, obviously. Just doesn't look right. I was kind of saying that before the year, too. A little worried. It's unfortunate, but Cooper Kupp had a monster game. I think it felt like he carried this team. It really, Goff played a solid game. Don't get me wrong, but Cooper Kupp pretty much carried this team. The defense stepped up. Only 10 points for the Bengals. Pretty solid. So, but they win by 2 scores, so it's good. The good momentum, energy builder with the last 2 games. But they got to show me. They got to show me a little more from the Rams here. Next game is the Cardinals and the Saints. Dominant game from the Saints. Early in this game, I'm saying that the Saints are very predictable in their passing game, very predictable, and it felt like it had something to do with Breeze being in there. But it's not really Breeze's fault. It's just the play calling just seemed predictable, more predictable than with Teddy Bridgewater in there. But then they really got going. It was still kind of predictable, to be honest. Breeze was just hitting ridiculous throws, just very smart in the pocket. It's just good to see him back. Latavius Murray, man, he's been running very well, and you see why that could be the best running back duo in football, and Kamara's not even there right now. Murray, Michael Thomas, doesn't matter who's at quarterback, has a dominant game. But this defense, I love this defense. This defense is unreal. You see Kyler Murray he played it. He didn't play a bad game. He was making some moves with his legs and making some big plays. But the Saints maybe give up a first down here and there and early in the drives. But geez, as soon as you get close to midfield, you ain't doing nothing. You ain't going anywhere. And it starts with the D-line. It goes to the pass rushers and the next level to the linebackers. Demario Davis is playing out of his mind. And you look at the secondary. All those guys are playing out of their minds. You got Marshawn Lattimore being one of the best corners in football right now. And the safety duo looks great. Marcus Williams and Von Bell. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was a great draft pick. He's stepping up. This Saints defense, I love this defense. I know they go up and score 31 points. And all the talk today is about Drew Brees. And, I'm not saying it shouldn't be. But, man, this defense, I love it. So another dominant win for the Saints. The Cardinal streak ends there. They do play maybe the best team in football in the Saints. So, it was a tough one. But Cardinals are a team that are a little scary. Even if you think your team is maybe as good as the Saints, you play the Cardinals, you gotta be a little nervous at the same time. I don't want to really deal with that Kyler Murray offense sometimes, even though this was a dominant win for the Saints. It's just still kind of how I feel. The next game is the Jets and the Jags. A game that, another just terrible Sam Darnold game. Just decisions where to throw the ball, and the mechanics are off, throwing off his back foot. Not quite as bad as the Patriots game, but, it's pretty close enough. And, yeah, I don't even know. It shows some promise, looks good against the Cowboys too, and then, and just unfortunate. Everyone that's been with me for a while here, they know I've never been a Darnold fan. I never doubted the guy's, long-term future, but I know, I never really was a fan. He was my QB5 in that draft class, actually ranked 5th. Just always the crucial turnovers. It's not just the turnovers, the crucial turnovers. I think they can cut that down a little bit, maybe fixing the offensive line, maybe, getting him, more knowledgeable within the game over time. But, those just really don't go away, and that's unfortunate. And it's a game they kind of were in still. They were kind of in this game still. And the Jags, we look at it was almost like a carbon copy of last week and this week, with the Bengals. They play the Bengals and the Jets. So another team, kind of like the Rams, they kind of get a gift in the scheduling to get a 2-game win streak here. And the Bengals were kind of just still in the game, even though Dalton's just throwing pick after pick. And then they're still in the game. They're getting in the red zone. He throws a pick. Same thing here. The Jets are just somehow, how are they in the game? And the guy throws another pick. And then the Jags execute. It really wasn't thrilled. Besides the playmaking ability, the interceptions. I guess some pressure from the Jags defense. Other than that, wasn't really thrilled. Think they can play a little better. They execute a little better. A win's a win. I will say, one of the plays of the day, kind of like the Brissett play was Minshew, evading the sack, stepping up in the pocket. He's very good in the pocket, stepping up. Sometimes he'll fumble if he takes a shot from behind. That's the only thing, the downside about his pocket presence. But stepping up in the pocket, avoiding sacks, and just letting it rip to Chris Conley, that play was insane. So I did like that play. Leonard Fournette played solid. But the Jags you can't let these teams hang around when they're having this many mistakes and just not playing well. You can't let them hang around. Same thing 2 weeks in a row. But get out of there with a win. That's the name of the game in the NFL. So the Jags are on a 2-game win streak, so maybe they can start getting hot. Once these teams, we've seen it last year with the Texans. They had some close wins, maybe some you could argue games they probably should have lost. Crucial mistakes by coaching staffs or players in those games, and then they just start ripping. They were just, the mindset was just win. We only know about winning at that point, and that's what happens sometimes. So some of these teams, it doesn't really matter who they play and how they win. Get it going, and it'll keep going. And we'll see if that happens with some of these teams. The Panthers and the Niners, wow. I picked the Niners, but boy, I did not think this was going to happen. 51 points. This team's unreal. This team's unbelievable, and I don't even know what to say. 51 points. I mean, the Panthers been looking good. Yeah, they haven't played the best teams. The question is, have they been for real? I've moved them up in my power rankings because they've been impressive, and it's a week-by-week power rankings, but I've always had that, somewhat doubt in the back of my mind. Can the Panthers, turn into, what I kind of thought they would be? What will it happen? What happened last year? Will that repeat? That's kind of been in the back of my mind. And one game can't tell you that. It's just one game. Teams have their off moments. They have their moments like this. But, geez, I mean, in this fashion, that is rough. I'm a Vikings fan. If the Vikings, no matter who they played, I know the Niners are one of the better teams in football. If next week, if they lost 51-13, nobody showed up. It's a bad day, but I would be very, very, very concerned about long-term here in this season. That is concerning. And I predicted, something I was kind of starting to think I could be wrong on, and I was going to admit that soon, was the Panthers' defense has kind of set that back a little bit. I think I hit a lot of, in terms of what teams have, on the, I thought I was pretty accurate on a lot of that, but I thought I was being wrong on the Panthers' D, and I still could be, but, this was rough, and a lot had to do with the turnovers. Kyle Allen didn't play his best game, so that led to points, but we're talking 51. That's on a new level. And the Niners, that's one thing, I thought the Niners would be more injured right now. I knew they had a very good team. I worried about their health. Still deep down kind of do a little bit. But they've been healthy. Their depth has been excellent. So that's a team that's proven people wrong like myself. But I knew they had talent. You can see the talent there everywhere. Love the pass rush. The pass rush is dominant. Nick Bosa had an absolute ridiculous game. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the guy, you see why he was a top pick of the draft and so hyped up. I mean, just so dominant. Already this good. Unbelievable. The sacks, all the plays he made, that interception was, it didn't really matter at that point. They were going to win the game, but that just shows his abilities. Just shows the freakishness of Nick Bosa, like unbelievable. And the Niners just executing, running the ball and opening up the pass to George Kittle. George Kittle had a monster game. It's all Kyle Shanahan. I know they have talent, don't get me wrong, but Shanahan just deserves so much credit for this offense and the play calling and play design, which we see teams are lacking. A lot of teams just don't have both. You need both. The ability to be unpredictable is key. That's what the Niners do here. Jimmy G just kind of being a game manager. I didn't like that safety, though. They already had this game won, and I guess that makes it worse that he did that when they had this game won. But, if they're up just a little closer with some good teams, that could be crucial. That could be a game changer, momentum changer, hanging onto the ball and dropping that far back in the end zone. So I don't like that. But other than that, he made the right throws. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he made the plays he needed to make. Tevin Coleman went absolutely wild. We see Emmanuel Sanders right off the bat scoring. Love to see that. Love this defense. One of the best defenses, maybe the best defense in football when it's all said and done. Statistically, I think it's the Patriots. They've been dominant, but you see all these different pass rushers, across the whole D-line getting in there. The secondary looks great, getting their hands in the ball. The secondary led by Richard Sherman. I mean, he's playing very good ball too. It's a team defense. I said this weeks and weeks ago. I love that. They are a high motor defense. Everybody is flying to the ball. They have speed. They're a very fast team, but they have it in a different way too. And I was talking about this weeks ago. They all fly to the ball as a team, and you love to see it. You don't really see it that much anymore, and that is what makes this team special. And you got to credit the coaching staff for that. You got to credit the offensive line. The offensive side, almost forgot that. The Panthers have been getting ridiculous pressure all year, maybe the best in football. And the Niners held it down. They've been keeping Jimmy G protected for the most part. I know they had the slip-up play, but for the most part, that's how Panthers been winning. They weren't winning the game with the amount of pressure they were getting in this game, so you got to give credit there. Even with guys hurt, some guys hurt, it's just hopefully they can stay healthy. It's a dominant team. Who will be one in the power rankings? Niners and Patriots. It's hard to have the Patriots go down. There's really no reason to put them down. But this Niners team is for real. See if the Panthers can bounce back. The bye week working in a negative way, maybe. Sometimes we see that. The Browns and the Patriots. I said the Patriots win this game, but I said Nick Chubb will have a good game running. I saw that the Patriots' run defense was, I don't think, as good as people thought. It's just something I saw, and I was kind of right, but then I did not expect the 2 fumbles off the first 2 carries for Nick Chubb. That was crucial. You take those fumbles away. One was a beast run and he fumbled from behind. And then you take that stupid play that Baker basically pitched the ball to Lawrence Guy. You take those away and the Browns could have had a chance in this game. So it's just crucial mistakes, unfortunate mistakes. Patriots defense coming up clutch like always. Why they're, rated number 1 in terms of statistically, I should say. And I love that secondary too. They hold it down. Brady's really not playing his best ball, to be perfectly honest. Any kind of pressure kind of throws them off a little bit. The offensive line, when they play a really good pass rush team, I'm going to be a little scared for them. Not too much. They are the best team in football right now, with the Niners. But yeah, just crucial mistakes from the Browns. There's really not much else to talk about there. Just crucial mistakes. If it wasn't for those mistakes, they definitely could have been in the game. Not going to sit here and say they win the game, but they could. They had a chance. So that was pretty much it. But Nick Chubb ran very well besides the 2 fumbles. I think you can run the Patriots. I think the Patriots, nightmare team. I don't know if the Patriots want to see those teams like that can, they have solid offenses that can do both, throw and run the ball. I think those are kind of their nightmare matchups. Not that it'll be a nightmare within the game. They definitely are probably the favorites in those games, but I think those are the teams that you really don't want to see because I think you can run on the Patriots there. But the Browns got to take care of the ball. They can hang in there on that game. The Raiders and Texans, I was right to pick this as my squeaker of the week, which means 3 points or less. Tight game. Felt like this was going to be a good game, and it was. Thought maybe just a little bit more scoring, maybe just a little bit more. I picked the over on the 51. You get the 51 exactly, of course, but at least it didn't end up going under. But Raiders started off pretty well. I kind of going back, I wish they would have ran the ball a little more. Josh Jacobs run the ball pretty well. I think it was only 15 or so. I think it was 15 carries. It's not like you were getting. They were up early. Right away, with that Renfrow touchdown, just a kind of a meltdown of the Texans defense and missed tackles. You only had a center fielder in there. I don't really like the whole one safety, just way the hell back there. But that was crucial, even though they ended up winning the game. But I think the Raiders could have went towards running the ball a little more, even though they were down most of the game. I know they're up there, they're down most of the game. Just not by a whole lot. They're still in the game. The main source of offense, in my opinion, is Josh Jacobs, and I think he needs to get the ball more in that. In some of those situations. It didn't have to be Josh Jacobs. I think you just need to run the ball more in general. That could have helped them a bit and kind of could have helped them win the game, really. Deshaun Watson played a great game. DeAndre Hopkins played a great game. Carlos Hyde stepped up when he needed to. See Duke Johnson score a touchdown. J.J. Watt goes down. He's out for the season. That just sucks. It's just unfortunate. And he's led the NFL, I think, through 7 weeks. He led the NFL in pressures. I think it was him and Danielle Hunter at the top. So that's crucial. Mercilus has been playing great, but obviously no Clowney trading him. The lack of pressure might not be good going forward. So that is tough there. But they get it done. Watson again played a good game. Wish the Raiders would have ran the ball more. Mainly offense in this game, I just expected a little bit more. So a little bit more. It was an entertaining game. Another entertaining game that really wasn't supposed to be. The Packers beat the Chiefs on Sunday night, 31-24. Right away, it looked like what we expected. Packers going to just rip them. But then the Chiefs have a hell of a second quarter and just really get back in the game and actually take the lead. So that it made an interesting game. You got to give credit to the Chiefs, Andy Reid with the game plan and Matt Moore for playing good. I mean, they were out without Matt Moore. They were without Frank Clark and Chris Jones, best guys in the D-line. Offensive linemen are dropping like flies or without guys going in the game. Then Tardif goes down later in the game. So you got to give credit sticking with a pretty darn good Packers team in that. And they really had a chance to win the game. The crucial moment was McCoy's fumble. I've been kind of ripping him for running the ball with the ball like out there one hand so loose, and he's only fumbled once, I think it was, before this, and he literally lost that ball on his own, and unfortunately it bounces backwards right into a Packer just laying on the ground, and the Packers go get what basically was a free touchdown. So that was a crucial moment in the game. Would the Chiefs have won if they didn't fumble there? I would still probably pick the Packers, but they definitely had a chance to. Definitely had a realistic shot. So that was crucial. And they kind of just go Damien Williams the rest of the way, and he shows he can play. I've been calling for Damien Williams to get more carries. What do you have, 6-7 carries in this game? Unacceptable. Damien Williams needs the ball more. He fits this offense. He can play. McCoy's just, he's a good running back, but it just can be costly like that. We've seen it before. But yeah, Matt Moore played a good game. What I liked a lot about Matt Moore was his ability to change the play at the line, adjust the play. And you don't even see that from a lot of starting quarterbacks right now, and that's a big problem in the league. But Matt Moore being a backup, I know he's been in the league in a while, but adjusting plays in a positive way. The Packers playing a lot of zone, and he's changing plays and hitting the underneath throws, across the middle throws, even 15 yards or so downfield. Impressive. And he even had some drops. Sammy Watkins dropping the ball, looked like he SWAT teamed the ball. And then Travis Kelce rarely dropping a couple balls in there. One which would have been a touchdown, but then they came up with a flag that I'm not really. It was a flag, but it was kind of. I hate the super late calls. It's two things that get me the most about bad penalties in general, but two things that really don't get that get most people. Most people just get mad off just bad calls, but me, when flags are picked up. And when calls are just super, super late, it's kind of like an NBA thing, they wait to see if the ball goes in the hoop. They kind of wait to see what happens in the play. Those two things, even though both of them most of the time end up right at the end, it was the right call, they just still get to me. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. They just still really, really get to me. But yeah, the Chiefs, you got to credit them. They had a shot in this game. With all the guys being out, especially Mahomes being the best player in football. But the Packers continue to roll on offense. Aaron Rodgers looked great. Actually he could have been picked off, once or twice in this game. But other than that, really good throws, obviously changing the play of the line. You see him doing it better than anybody, for the better. You see most quarterbacks change the play at the line, but usually it just ends up being a run or a check down, and you just hate that, or it's a negative play. And Rodgers does it for the positive, for the better. But you really got to give credit to the running back duo, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, being receivers mainly. Aaron Jones had a ridiculous day through the air. That screen pass he flew on. Really, it's ridiculous that he scores on that. Defense should not allow that, but that was a great play by Aaron Jones. Shows the speed. And Jamal Williams coming up with that clutch touchdown throw was a ridiculous throw by Rodgers, which I still can't tell if that's what he meant to do or not. But it was, at the end of the day, it's ridiculous. Jamal Williams acting like a receiver, better than some receivers on the Packers probably, and making that grab, just super impressive. That was clutch. That was key, crucial in this game. And I like the Chiefs. Even though they gave up 31 points, the ability to, starting to get pressure. They couldn't get pressure earlier in the year, and now they got unique blitzes coming in. They're finding ways to get pressure, and that could be crucial against Kirk Cousins next week. That's kind of the way to beat the Vikings offense. So we'll see if that comes into play. Wish they would have went for it from the midfield at the end of the game. Obviously, they punted the ball away. I think that Colts game scared them. They ran up the middle of Damien Williams on fourth down. Didn't like that call then, didn't like this one now. I think that scared them away from it. But if you're playing, it's the Packers. If you're playing a team that doesn't have that much success on offense, I understand punting the ball, but you don't punt the ball in that situation. So that's just unfortunate. We'll see if when Mahomes is back. Could be better. Could be back sooner than later. So we'll see. But entertaining Sunday night game. Kind of surprisingly. But yeah, that's going to do it for the recap. We're back every week with this. We're going to break down the trade deadline trades for sure. Trade deadline's tomorrow, Tuesday. And then we got our predictions, score predictions, plenty more every single week. We got you covered. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done it yet. That's going to do it, though. Goodbye.